It's Saturday morning, and that means market day. What are we bringing to market today? Well, we got 2 big coolers full of eggs here and here, about 100 dozen. We don't have any chicken until the first is ready toward Memorial Day weekend, but we got freezers full of beef and pork. Cold today, about 30 degrees, and we got some snow last night, but strangely enough, these worse weather days are better for my market traffic, and that's because it holds the Cornell students and the Ithaca College students away from market and lets the locals come in more to buy groceries. But we'll see. Here we are at the beautiful Ithaca Farmers Market. Here's the pavilion. My stall is around on the back side. You can find me right next to the restrooms. And the office. This is my booth. Just a word about the rules here at market. We're still under the same COVID restrictions that we've been under since last March. So whenever we're in here, we have to wear a mask because it's New York state law. Also, the pavilion capacity is limited to 200 visitors. So it's the same deal. People line up outside as they count going in and out to keep 200 or less in the pavilion. Overall, because of COVID and the limited capacity of the pavilion, our sales are down probably a third this year over what they would be. It's really starting to hurt our business. The pavilion is laid out like a big cross, and there's about 90 booths in here, and on any given Saturday they're all full. The rules about who gets what booth and market are pretty arcane and complicated. In fact, we've been here for 8 years, and I actually just got a permanent booth this year, so I own this booth. But for those that are just starting out, there's a complicated points system. It's based on how many years you've been here, how many markets you've attended, and it takes a while to figure out as a new vendor. So every booth at the market is owned by a particular vendor. In this case, we own this booth, and we're free to modify it within certain parameters that the market gives us. I haven't gotten around to modifying this booth yet. It's kind of a mess from the last vendor that was here. And if any vendor doesn't show up for a market on a given day, they call out a couple days before, and then that market booth goes up for a lottery or a stall auction where people that don't have a booth yet but have the most points can take that booth. It's all very complicated. And yeah, my booth is kind of a mess right now. It's got these slope tables. None of them are level. This thing is just about ready to fall down. I'm going to build a new table that goes all the way across the front and level up this table and get it right, and take out this table so that I have room to push the freezers back there, but I have not had time to get around to it. I find it just amazing. This pavilion was empty an hour ago, and all this stuff gets put in by each vendor in an hour. And at the end of the day, it's all taken down and it's gone. Tons and tons of food and everything else. Market hours are 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. and the lion's share of my business is between 8:45 and 11 a.m. when the locals all come in to get their groceries. So this is the busy time. Eggs seem to be the thing that's selling this morning. That's good because we got a lot of them. It's hard for me to film when customers are here because, like it or not, most people aren't comfortable on the camera and don't want to be on the camera. And I'm sorry about that, but that's just the way it goes. 1865.
Mr. Larson?
How are you?
We're here because of your YouTube video.
I'm filming right now.
Good, good.
You want to say hi to the camera? So, every market I get 3 or 4 viewers from the YouTube channel that come and visit me, and it's pretty cool.
What did you say, 53?
53.75. There's an old saying at farmers market, and that is when it's a cold day, always bring one more layer than you think you need. And it's not that cold, it's probably 35 or 40 degrees, but the wind that comes off the lake here is terrible. The other thing I wanted to mention is that as an agricultural vendor at a farmers market, the governing agency, or the agency having jurisdiction, is New York Ag and Markets, and as far as selling eggs and meats and things, there isn't really an inspection at market. Now, the food vendors are subject to a whole host of regulations from the county health department, but they have no jurisdiction over us. Being under the jurisdiction of ag and markets makes things a lot easier for us farmers, but it also puts some limitations on what we can sell. I can't process our foods in any way, so I can't say sell pickled eggs, or I can't cook samples of our meat and give them out. In order to do any of those things, I have to have specific authorization from the health department. It has to go through review the recipe you use, and you have to follow all their standards. So it adds a real level of complication if you want to get into that business. Here's what we have to offer today. We don't have a lot of chicken and won't until Memorial Day, but we got lots of pork and lots of beef. I just sold one of these and I want to show you them. These are delicious. This is pork belly, and you've seen me smoke this in previous videos, but I put it on smoker, smoke it all day, wrap it up partway through, and then uncover it till it's just about ready to fall apart and makes excellent sandwiches. I love selling this stuff. Here's what it looks like behind my booth, and normally this area here would be overflowing with people eating and sitting, but because of COVID, it's really sparse. One interesting thing is the Cornell crew team practices up and down this waterway here, and early in the morning when I first get here, you'll hear the coach really swearing at the rowers to get them to work harder. It's always interesting to hear. And the food vendors do really well here. This is a coffee place. It's always got a line. Well, it's about 11 o'clock now, and the morning rush wasn't nearly what it should have been, in my opinion, and I'm going to slow down now. So I spend a lot of my time from 11 to 3 o'clock when the market closes standing and looking at the people go by. There's one cooler full of eggs sold. Time for number 2. I wanted to show you my cash register, and you're probably wondering why I'm always looking at the phone when I'm dealing with customers. And it's right on my phone. On here is every item that we stock throughout the year, and I just punch the item and then the amount, and it keeps track of me. And when I get home, I can pull it up on my computer and see exactly what I sold. And this app, Square, also takes credit cards. I just plug in the reader and swipe credit cards. Credit cards cost me about 3%, but a lot of customers use them these days. When the market gets into this part of the day around noontime, you just watch the customers going by and know nobody's carrying anything. They're looking for lunch, they're sightseeing, so that's why my business goes way down. Let's go out and take a walk, and I'll show you some of the other things for sale here. Popcorn, greens, flowers, apples, t-shirts, wood crafts, jewelry, soap, cider, coffee, baked goods, lunch, pottery, seedlings, CBD oil, hats, wine, leather goods. At this market, you can only sell what you make or grow, and it has to be within a 30-mile radius of where the market is, which I think is a really nice rule. It prevents reselling. This is what happens at lunchtime. Lines. Actually, this is my neighbor that sells Cambodian food, and he does a great business here. It's lunchtime, and normally this is where the lines would form outside the pavilion, but since we had kind of a crappy weather morning, there's no lines yet, which is a first in a long time, because the pavilion capacity is capped, so the line forms. It's time for me to eat my own lunch, which Hillary packs for me, and tuna sandwich and some pretzels and some peanuts. Usually if I start eating a sandwich, it almost guarantees that I'm going to get business, just because I'm busy. It's pretty boring here this time of day in the early afternoon, so I figured I might as well talk to you all. This is a complicated market. It has a full-time manager, it has an executive director, it has a board of directors, it's got parking attendants and people to manage the crowds, and that all converts into cost for the vendors. Not to mention they have to maintain this pavilion. I have to pay an annual fee to stay a full member of the market. I have to pay an annual fee to keep this booth reserved for our farm, and then I have to pay a daily selling fee. So it adds up to quite a bit of money. This market runs Saturdays and Sundays in this building. It runs downtown on Tuesdays. It runs up toward Cornell campus on East Hill on Wednesdays, which we also attend. And then they also have a Thursday night market if things ever go back to normal here. But it's a big deal. This is a big market for such a small town.
But then after that,
Have I mentioned that the afternoon is really boring? It is. I just try to keep my mind occupied with stuff.
How you doing, sir?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm very good. You take a dozen eggs. Okay. 2 pounds of ground pork.
And ground beef.
We're gonna take a pound of ground beef too.
Okay.
And get the sweet sausage.
I do.
Yeah. I'll take 2 pounds of it.
Okay.
Give me breakfast sausage too.
I do have that.
Yeah. How's that come? Does it come?
It comes as bulk, so you can make patties out
Yeah,
of
we'll
it.
do it. Pound of that, please.
Okay. I've been hearing baby birds
Yeah, there's somewhere, aren't there?
all day, and I can't find where they are.
Well, it's almost contraband in and of itself now, right?
They have a plastic bag?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're still allowed to pack meat in plastic bags. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we're winding down with a half hour to go, and the last hour is really the garbage hour. Sometimes I get a little rush from people that are getting their things and going after eating lunch, but usually it's pretty slow. And the crowd's really thinned out. Well, it's about 5 till 3, and it's slow enough for me to start packing up. The market rule is that you've got to stay till the close unless you sell out of product. And I'm not sold out of product. Still got 3/4 of a cooler of eggs left, which is unfortunate. I've done pretty well on meat. A lot of empty bags, so it hasn't been a terrible day. It hasn't been the best day. It's kind of typical for a late April, early May market. This market really doesn't get kicking until June, July, August. Then it floods, well, in non-COVID times anyway. So I'm going to pack up. Hi.
can I buy one of these?
Well, sure. Yeah. $4.50. Take either one. And once again, just like this morning, this whole thing packs up and is empty in less than an hour. A lot of material being moved. And that's my day at the Ithaca Farmers Market. 6 hours long and having to be in character the whole time in selling mode. You get pretty tired. And usually when I get home, Hillary finishes up the afternoon chores. I wind up laying down on the couch in front of the fire and I fall asleep till dinner time. I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you next time.